Hello and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Ripple now hiring a senior manager to manage XRP ETF initiatives. Okay, let's get into this one. So, I've done a quick scan through of this just to get the gist of what's going on. It's basically in regards to a post that's being put up by Ripple for a job opening, and as you can see, as part of the opening, one of the things that they said that they're looking for is someone to dive into cryptocurrency ETF initiatives, which obviously, Ripple hold XRP, so that would indicate that they're looking to try and basically go forward with a ETF for XRP. Now, look, this is my stance on this because there was an interview recently with Brad Garlinghouse, and it was someone from CNBC, if I remember rightly, and he asked him about an ETF, and Brad was declining to comment on, which, to be honest with you, I'm not really surprised at all because, it's one of these things. They're not going to want to just say things when they can't make any kind of guarantees or they can't say anything set in stone, right? So they don't want to just give away the fact that they're looking into an ETF if it's not something that they can say is 100% set in stone. Because what's the point? It's kind of like making false hope, false promises, right? So they're not going to want to give their moves away. They're just going to keep it close to their chest and see how things go. The other thing about this for me, and I said this in a recent video, I'm just going to be completely blunt here. I do not see an XRP ETF coming anytime soon in America. Now, if you look at one of my recent videos, it was in regards to a video done by Lewis Jackson. And he actually said he'd been speaking to a European firm and they had actually been looking to try and release an XRP ETP. And they tried to do that for December. The plan was for it to launch in December. Now, it obviously hasn't launched, so I guess whatever's happened has happened, but it's not been able to go through. But it is something that was obviously in the works. I said this before and I'll say it again. If you want an ETF, you really want it to be in America because America is the biggest economy. That's just the truth of the matter. So I'm not saying that it being in Europe means it's just going to completely fail. It's obviously going to add to the potential value for XRP, of course, but it's not going to have the same impact. Like, America is the biggest economy. And to be honest with you, it's not even going to make the same amount of noise being in Europe as compared to it being in America, right? Like, once it comes out in America, everybody's going to have the hysteria about it. It's going to completely add to that, euphoria, that kind of thing, and the FOMO and all that stuff. It's not going to be as big in Europe. You will probably see some news articles about it, but I don't think it'll be anything massive. I don't see it really getting, being on, the news, for example. But if it was to be done in America, I think it would, right? Can you see what I mean? Because, for example, they've already got notoriety in America in terms of Ripple because of the lawsuit with the SEC. So them then get an ETF, that would be something that would be newsworthy. But I think it being in the UK or Europe or whatever, I just don't think it's going to have the same impact. Because I'm not sure if they would have to follow American laws because it's UK or European legislation, right? So I doubt they're having to answer to the SEC to get the ETP approved, right? So I guess they'll be able to do what they want in terms of following UK or European legislation. But in regards to in America, who have Ripple got to go through to get the XRP ETF approved? The SEC. And do we really think that the SEC are gonna do Ripple any favors right now after they embarrass them in the lawsuit and beat them? Do you really see Gary Gensler being like, yeah, guys, bring in your ETF, it's fine, we'll get that approved in no time? I mean, even if you just look when the Bitcoin spot ETF got approved, right? He actually said in the post message after it being approved, he was kind of making it clear, this isn't us opening the floodgates for crypto. This is kind of a one-off thing. It's not like we're now saying that all cryptos are welcome and we'll do ETFs for everyone. So they clearly made it obvious that this is a thing of our hands are tied legally because we already lost the lawsuit. So we kind of have no choice but to do this. So we're kind of letting this go through, but don't think this is a thing where we've changed our stance in any way. We haven't, right? So they was making that abundantly clear. And so putting in that fact and then adding in the fact that Ripple beat the SEC and how much the SEC will feel humiliated and embarrassed, especially Gary Gensler, I just don't see him being welcoming of an XRP ETF. Now, obviously, this is stuff that can change because, if presidents change, then new chairs come in, right? So someone could take over Gary's position. So I'm not saying that this is a thing where forever now there'll be a problem. If you get someone who replaces Gary and is actually a fair person, unlike Gary, then yeah, it's very possible they will come in with a very different attitude and be like, yeah, cool, no problem, bring it in, I'll review it. If it's all good, you'll be good to go, no problems. But that's really luck of the draw, right? Because if we look at who came in before Gary Gensler, it was Jay Clayton. And it was actually Jay Clayton who put the lawsuit in against Ripple. He did it on his last day in office. And so when Gary Gensler came in, because there was a video of him talking at MIT, doing like a seminar, we was all thinking that, hey, Gary Gensler seems quite crypto friendly. He seems very knowledgeable. He seems very neutral in the sense of he seems fair when he's talking about cryptos. Now, don't get me wrong. He did say in the early stages that he thought XRP was a security. But the thing is even when he was talking about other cryptos, he was very fair. Like, he was very balanced. And when we see him now and the way he's just basically saying like all cryptos are securities, that wasn't his attitude back in the day. That's not how he was. So I don't know if it's a thing where he's come into the office and they're like, look, this is how this is going to run. You just need to follow what we're telling you to do and everything will be fine. I don't know. Has he had a change of heart? I doubt that somehow. But yeah, I don't know what it is. So we was hoping when Gary come in that he would be the guy who would be a bit more fair and a bit more reasonable. He's kind of turned out to be worse than Jay Clayton, right? So like, we don't know what could happen is the point that I'm making. Like, we could wait for someone else to come in and that next person's even worse than Gary. Like, we just don't know. And so I do think it's possible that they'll get an ETF approved, because the other thing is that they could take them to court, right? They could sue them if they don't approve it, and that's another lawsuit they'll have. Now, they had a lawsuit against Grayscale. Like, the SEC got sued by Grayscale because they kept declining the Bitcoin spot ETF at the time, but they wasn't giving them no guidance on how to actually get it approved. They just kept declining it. And so they lost that lawsuit. And this is why I say their hands were tied, because they couldn't keep doing this because they'd already lost a lawsuit in regards to that, right? So they kind of had to show that they was making an effort to actually try and help them get this stuff approved. So their hands were really tied. They tried to stall it as much as they could, and they just got to a point where they couldn't do it anymore. And so, when I'm just looking at this in terms of the ETF, I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with them trying to hire someone to get it ready and trying to get it done. That's fine. I'm just saying in my head, I'm not expecting an XRP ETF in terms of in America anytime soon. I just don't see that happening. Could it change, in another year or two? Yeah, who knows? As I say, like, I think the presidential elections are coming up, right? So that could change everything. If the presidency gets taken over, we have a new change in government and in presidency, that could obviously change everything. So there's definitely possibilities. I'm just saying as of right now, like in the early stages, I don't see anything happening for a good few months at the very least. And in my head, I've got a much more long-term time frame on this. Now, my thing is do I think it will happen in the future at some point? Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much inevitable. Unless something really bad happens with XRP, which, I really can't see happening as it stands right now, because they've already been around for how long and managed to, maintain their position. But in regards to, in the long term, yeah, I think, an ETF will come. That would be my general perspective. So yeah, I will just say this before we get into the article. In my opinion, do I think that this is something that's going to be happening anytime soon? Not really. Just because they are hiring someone to get this kind of stuff in place. Yes, it could be that they are trying to get stuff, going. Doesn't mean that they have a short-term perspective on this. It could be something that they're going to have in the works now for a year or two. It really doesn't necessarily mean that this is something that's coming like right away. So I'll get into the article and then we can discuss this just a little bit further. Ripple's new hiring move suggests the American crypto payment giants could be interested in an XRP exchange-traded fund, in brackets ETF. In a recent post on X, Ripple called attention to its job opening for skilled individuals in decentralized finance to oversee activities tailored to institutional investors. Specifically, Ripple seeks a senior manager for business development to cater to institutional DeFi. Per Ripple's career page, the firm wants individuals from the United Kingdom and the United States. Ripple stated that institutional DeFi is crucial in its mission for, quote, global financial equity and growth, unquote. In particular, it emphasized that institutional DeFi stands ready for significant adoption within the financial services sector. As a result, Ripple is proactively collaborating with enterprises to craft solutions and applications, harnessing the XRPL ledger and its native token, XRP. Ideal candidate to work on crypto ETF initiatives. In line with its strategic positioning, Ripple seeks a growth-orientated senior manager of business development to join the RippleX teams. Notably, the RippleX crew is a developer community facilitating the adoption of institutional DeFi on the XRPL. Notably, the RippleX crew is a developer community facilitating the adoption of institutional DeFi on the XRPL. In this position, the ideal candidate will collaborate closely with marketing and trading teams to pinpoint and capitalize on new partnerships and business development prospects. Per the Ripple job listing, the key responsibilities for this role involve spearheading cryptocurrency-related ETF initiatives. This would be in collaboration with relevant partners and internal trading teams. Furthermore, the selected senior manager will oversee and expand a portfolio of institutional DeFi accounts. They will also collaborate closely with Ripple's product, sales, and engineering crew to introduce new products and services. The services are to facilitate institutional investors' safe and compliant participation in institutional DeFi. XRP Army reacts. The mention of crypto ETF initiatives as a pivotal function for the senior manager Ripple is hiring has sparked bullish comments from members of the XRP community. Some have raised intriguing questions, wondering whether the long-awaited XRP is, quote, closer than imagined, unquote. According to prominent Chinese reporter Colin Wu, quote, the Ripple job posting hints that the company is preparing to apply for an XRP ETF, unquote. Meanwhile, in a recent interview, when questioned about the prospect of an XRP ETF, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse declined to comment. Okay, so there you have it, guys. I can't really say much more than what I already said, to be completely honest. I think I really did break down my true thoughts earlier. But yeah, I'm not convinced that this is going to happen anytime soon. Like, yes, they can be hiring someone to get their ducks in a row to get an XRP ETF going to try and get it applied for at some point in time. But I'm not so sure that they're going to apply for an ETF right now, because this is the thing, right? This is one thing that Brad said in the interview, right, in regards to Ripple doing an IPO. He said, we don't really want to do the IPO because for us to do the IPO, it means that we have to send the SEC a load of information about how we do business and stuff like that, right? And then he said, the thing with that is, the last time we did all that is when they sued us. So they was going to the SEC and they was trying to get help. They were saying like, look, this is how we're doing our business. You know, is this all okay? And the SEC were giving them very vague advice, as we can tell now. And they ultimately used that information that Ripple was giving them freely because they was actually trying to get help to do things in the legal way. And they used all that against them and used that to sue them. So Brad is basically saying like, why are we going to want to apply for an IPO and then give them all of our business information and then they just try and use that information to try and sue us again? So it's very possible that they could do the very same thing with them applying for an ETF. Like, I don't know what information they have to give up to be able to get the application going, right? And if that is the case, they're not going to want to do this. So yes, I think it's a thing where they could prepare to try and get an ETF done, but I don't think they're going to go for it right now because I think they're very much aware that the chances of them getting that approved right now I'd say it's slim to none, to be honest with you. I really don't see it being likely. Now, the only alternative is they apply for it and then they sue if the SEC reject it, right? Like, they can say, well, what's the reason? Like, what are you going to do in regards to helping us get it approved? So I do think that's a possible avenue, but the only thing I'll say with that is I don't know how long that lawsuit could take, right? That could take a good while to go. Could that be another year of a lawsuit to do that? I'm not sure. I really don't know how long the Grayscale lawsuit was, so I can't say for sure. And it could be that with the SEC, they could do worse with Ripple. They could try and keep stalling it and keep using delay tactics, because we know that they don't like Ripple. We know that they're not happy that they lost to Ripple. That's just the fact of the matter. Like, yes, they did get a win in one aspect, but the things that really mattered that they wanted to win on, they lost. So they are not happy about that. Gary Gensler looks embarrassed. He looks humiliated, and I know he does not like that. So he's not going to be going out of his way to get this done. Plus, we know he's very crypto hostile anyway. So even just in that general sense, he's not going to want to help. So for me, I just don't see this happening anytime soon. I think it's great that they're trying to get that stuff sorted, because I do think at some point in time it's going to come. But do I look at this and think that this is going to be something that's going to be coming from the American aspect, I will say, because, you know, they could try and get ETPs and stuff like this done in other countries. Yeah, that's fine. But really, you want it in America. It's the biggest economy. It's going to make the most noise. It's going to have the biggest impact. That's just the truth of the matter. So in terms of an American one, I don't see that coming anytime soon, in my personal opinion. But what do you guys think? Ripple hiring someone to do a XRP ETF. Do you agree with this? Do you think the hiring is to create an XRP ETF? Do you think an XRP ETF is coming soon? Do you think an XRP ETF will be good for XRP's price? Or do you not agree with this? Do you not think an XRP ETF is coming anytime soon? Or do you just not think that an XRP ETF will be good for XRP's price overall long term? Let me know your thoughts, guys. I'll be interested to hear. Thank you very much for watching this. If you did like it, please remember to drop a comment, like, and subscribe. But until next time, take care.